Hello everyone. Today I will continue telling you the love story of the poor girl Tu Sam and Officer Lee. I hope you enjoy the video. Ever since Officer Lee received the mission to infiltrate the criminal organization, his life and Tu Sam's life had been torn into two parallel lines. They were not allowed to contact each other, not allowed to look at each other for too long, and even if they met by chance in public, they had to act like complete strangers. Just one wrong glance could pull danger down onto both of them. Tu Sam understood that better than anyone, yet her heart still ached every time she caught sight of Lee's familiar silhouette standing among criminals. She had to pretend not to see him, had to suppress the startled beat of her heart whenever he walked past her like someone she had never known. She couldn't let anyone discover their connection, because if even one person became suspicious, the consequences would be disastrous. Lee, every time he passed by the place where Tu Sam worked, he had to suppress every emotion within him, had to force himself to keep a cold expression and a distant gaze, as if she meant nothing to him. But deep inside, all he wanted was to hold her hand, ask if she was tired that day, if anyone had hurt her, if she had eaten properly or skipped meals again because she was worrying about him. Late at night, when he lay on the old, moldy rental bed the organization provided, loneliness pressed down on his chest like a weight. Every message he wanted to send had to be deleted the moment he finished typing it. Every call he wanted to make could only exist in his imagination. All because he could not risk her safety. Lee knew too well. If the organization discovered he had a weakness, someone he loved, the first person they would target would be Tu Sam. And he would rather endure suffocating loneliness than see her in danger. Whenever he sat in meetings with the criminals, his ears listened, but his heart always drifted to where Tu Sam lived. He didn't know if she was sleeping well, if she was afraid without him beside her, or if she was keeping her promise not to hurt herself by worrying too much. The only thing keeping Lee steady in this dangerous undercover role was hope. Hope that the case would end soon. Hope that he could return to the life of a normal officer. Hope that he could stand in front of Tu Sam again, without pretending to be a stranger, without hiding the feelings burning inside him. Hope that he could hold her in his arms once more, and call her by the name he had been forced to swallow back for so many days. Tu Sam, I miss you. Since the day Officer Lee no longer appeared at the market gate, no longer showed up in front of her house, no longer called her name in the late afternoon, Tu Sam felt a huge emptiness inside her chest. But she understood. His job required this distance. If she distracted him, if even one small mistake slipped out, Lee would be in danger and she would be too. So even though her eyes often looked sad, Tu Sam kept telling herself she had to stay strong. Every morning, before the sun rose high, she went to her garden. Her small hands planted more morning glory, mustard greens, bok choy, spinach. The new rows of vegetables grew straight and neat, as if growing on her behalf with quiet resilience. Then she tended to the newly hatched chicks, their chirping filling the yard with a bit of life. The busy work kept her mind from wandering, but it could never fill the space left by someone she missed. At noon and in the afternoon, she carried her bamboo basket to the market to sell freshly picked vegetables, a few chicken eggs, some cassava, and bananas from her yard. People would ask, "Why isn't Officer Lee helping you today?" Tu Sam just smiled softly, her voice as light as the wind. "He has work to do." No one knew that simple sentence tightened her heart every time she said it. At night, after she finished everything, she often sat on the doorstep, looking at the path Lee used to walk down. Whenever the breeze blew, she remembered the times they strolled together through the quiet market, remembered how he nagged her to wear a hat so she wouldn't get sunburned, remembered the gentle way he looked at her when she talked about small, silly things. She remembered the way Lee smiled whenever she accidentally said something foolish. Remembered his footsteps beside hers, not fast, not slow, always quietly protecting her as if it were second nature. Sometimes her hand unconsciously reached for the scarf he once wrapped around her shoulders. Just a thin piece of fabric, yet it felt like it held all his warmth. She whispered to herself, "As long as he comes back safe, as long as he's unharmed, I can wait for however long it takes." And even though the longing grew heavier with each passing day, Tu Sam continued to live each day with diligence and kindness, believing that somewhere in the shadows, Officer Lee was also fighting through danger, hoping to return to her as soon as he could. During the days Officer Lee infiltrated the criminal organization, he always remained calm, quiet, and precise with every detail. His cautiousness gradually made the boss start trusting him. The boss assigned Lee small but important tasks, watched him for weeks, yet found nothing suspicious. That night, inside an abandoned warehouse where the dim yellow light flickered as if it would go out any moment, the boss sat on an old wooden chair, smoking and staring at Lee with sharp, icy eyes. "This time I don't want the underlings to go," he said, voice deep and raspy. "This shipment is important. I'm going myself, but you will follow to assist me. Do well, and you'll be promoted." Lee kept a cold expression, though his heartbeat quickened for a second. This was exactly the opportunity his team had been waiting for. The secret handoff, the gathering place of nearly all key members. He bowed slightly and replied, "Yes, I understand." The boss smacked the table once, satisfied. "Get ready. We leave at dawn." That night, while everyone else was asleep or passed out around the warehouse, Lee quietly slipped into the darkest corner where no camera could reach. He took out the microphone hidden in the lining of his shoe, switched on encrypted communication, and said only one short sentence. "Tiger 07 reporting. Target confirmed. He will personally deliver the goods tomorrow morning. Location: Dock Warehouse 12. Prepare for full containment." On the other end, only a faint exhale was heard before the commander's voice sounded. "Copy. Hold position. Full ambush will be deployed." Lee immediately shut off the device and hid it back in place. Everything had to stay absolutely discreet. If he were discovered, not only would the mission fail, he might be executed on the spot. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes for a moment to steady his breathing. In that fleeting second, the image of Tu Sam appeared in his mind, her gentle eyes, her worried look, her soft smile he always remembered. "Just wait a little longer. Tu Sam," he whispered inside. "This ends tomorrow." By dawn, the boss had assembled everyone. Lee put on the black jacket reeking of cigarette smoke, masking his true identity beneath the same cold look as the others. 3 pickup trucks rolled out of the warehouse, heading straight toward Dock 12, where the biggest transaction yet would take place. Lee sat in the front passenger seat, hand gripping the cold gun hidden inside his jacket pocket, eyes fixed ahead. He knew the Special Forces team was somewhere among the winding roads, waiting for the exact moment to close the trap. No one in the organization suspected a thing. The boss even patted Lee on the shoulder with an evil grin. "After this job, I'll trust you completely." Lee nodded. "Since I've stepped in, I'll go all the way." But what they didn't know was that all the way meant the end of the entire criminal organization. As long as the plan went smoothly, as long as the boss stepped into the trap, as long as the Special Forces arrived at the right moment, Lee would finally be free to return to his real life, free to return to the girl who waited for him every night on her doorstep. The 3 trucks came to a stop at Dock 12, a deserted place by the river, where no one went except smugglers. The wind rustled through rusty containers, and the water shimmered under the pale morning light. The boss got out first, ordered his men to check the area. He had no idea that not far away, the Special Forces were hiding behind rows of containers, barrels pointed and ready. Lee followed behind him, eyes scanning every shadow. Everything was too quiet, quiet enough to make him shiver. "Stay here. Wait for my signal," the boss said, then moved to check the goods inside a container. Lee's fingers brushed the small device hidden in his sleeve, the final signal for the ambush. But just as he was about to press it, a voice shouted behind him, "Stop! Who the hell are you?" Lee spun around instantly. One of the underlings, sharp-eyed, sly-faced, and someone who had never liked him, was glaring at him suspiciously. This man was the most observant in the group. His eyes narrowed at Lee's wristwatch, the kind gangsters would never wear. He growled, "That watch. Where did you get it?" Lee's fist tightened. He couldn't lie his way out. One wrong word and the guy would shoot. The boss turned back at that moment. Seeing the tension, he approached, eyes sharp as blades. "What's going on?" The underling raised his voice. "Boss, I think this guy isn't one of us." A frozen moment. Lee knew his act was seconds from collapsing. The boss stared into Lee's eyes, suspicion growing. He drew his gun and pressed it to Lee's forehead. "Who are you?" Lee had no choice left. He gritted his teeth and pressed the hidden signal in his sleeve. At that exact moment, boom! A flashbang detonated from the right container. "Police! Hands up! Surround the entire area!" Gunshots exploded everywhere. The gang's men panicked, firing wildly. White smoke filled the air. The boss roared, "It's you! You are the mole!" He charged at Lee, ready to shoot, but Lee was faster. He kicked the gun away, dodged a bullet, and rolled aside. But from behind, another thug jumped out of the warehouse and struck Lee hard in the back. He stumbled, fell to the ground, his gun sliding far away. The boss screamed, "Kill him!" 3 guns pointed at Lee at the same time. He pushed himself up, but his foot slipped on the oil-stained concrete, and he collapsed again. In that life-or-death second, Sam's face flashed in his mind, her gentle smile, her pure eyes, her soft voice that warmed his heart. "No, I can't die. Not before I see her again." Just as the gunman pulled the triggers, bang, 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 3 shots fired from the opposite container. Each gunman fell before he could shoot. The special forces had broken through the gunfire and reached Lee. "Lee, get down. We've got you." He was dragged behind a large container, the squad leader shielding him. Bullets still flew everywhere. The boss tried to escape but was cornered and taken down moments later. After a tense exchange of gunfire, he was pinned to the ground and handcuffed. "It's over," the squad leader shouted. Everything finally quieted. The smoke slowly cleared, leaving only the smell of gunpowder and the sound of panting breaths. Lee sat on the ground, gasping, sweat dripping down his face, his hands trembling slightly. A teammate placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did great. It's over." Lee looked up at the pale sky, feeling free, relieved, and filled with one more emotion: anticipation. Amid the echoing police sirens all across the dock, he thought of only one thing. "Now, I can finally go back to Sam." After completing all the procedures and receiving leave from his superiors, Officer Lee didn't hurry home. The first thing he thought of wasn't rest, it was seeing Sam. Leaving the police station, he stopped by a small roadside shop. He stood in front of the flower shelf for several minutes, because after all those weeks apart, he couldn't give her anything, couldn't say a loving word, couldn't even exchange a glance. Today he wanted to make up for it, even just a little. Lee chose a small but elegant bouquet. Pale blue hydrangeas, the kind she once said looked like a little cloud you can hold in your hands. He also picked a tiny box wrapped neatly. Inside was a thin silver necklace, its pendant shaped like a water droplet symbolizing peace. He paid for them and got back into the car, carrying a nervous excitement he didn't even expect from himself. When Lee reached the small house where Sam lived, the late afternoon sun had just settled, painting the yard in warm gold. She was on the porch, sorting the leftover vegetables from her morning at the market. Her small figure looked a little thinner than before. Lee paused for a moment, simply watching her in silence. Then he walked forward. The crunch of his footsteps on the gravel made Sam look up. She turned, and almost dropped the vegetables in her hands. "Lee!" Her voice trembled, as if she couldn't believe her eyes. He smiled, a soft, calm smile filled with relief after countless tense days. "Sam, I'm back." He stepped closer and held out the bouquet. The pale hydrangeas made her eyes shimmer instantly. "This is for you," he said, his voice slightly hoarse. "I owe you an apology, and a thank you for waiting." Sam accepted the bouquet with trembling hands. Her eyes glistened with emotion. "You even bought me flowers." Lee chuckled lightly, the very smile she had missed so much. "Not just flowers." He handed her the small box. Sam hesitated, then opened it. When she saw the delicate silver necklace shining softly inside, she covered her mouth, eyes welling up. "This is the gift I chose for you," Lee said gently. "I want you to always feel safe, whether I'm near or far." She couldn't say anything. She could only look at him, her gaze a mixture of tender scolding, relief, and overwhelming affection. Lee stepped closer, as if afraid she might vanish if he moved too fast. "Sam, I'm back. And this time I'm truly back for you." Sam set the bouquet onto the chair and rushed into his arms. She hugged him tightly. Lee wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. The scent of the evening breeze, the faint fragrance of hydrangeas, and the familiar warmth of the man she had waited for so long, all blended into a moment so beautiful it made her heart clench. In his embrace, Sam whispered, voice trembling, "I thought you wouldn't come back." Lee rested his hand on her hair and murmured, "I promise. I won't disappear again." On the small porch, surrounded by rows of green vegetables and the sounds of chickens behind the golden light of dusk, the two finally reunited. No more danger, no more fear of being discovered, only the peace they had longed for. The last, Sam got to hold Lee with all the longing she had kept in her heart. Sam stayed in his arms for a long while, until her breathing calmed. Only then did Lee slowly release her, but his hand remained in hers, as if afraid she might slip away. "Let's go inside," he said softly. "Today, I want to eat dinner cooked by you." Sam looked up at him, her eyes still shimmering. "Then what do you want to eat?" Lee smiled and gently tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "Anything is fine, as long as you're the one cooking." Her heart softened instantly. She nodded and led him inside. Her small kitchen was just the same, tidy, clean, filled with the gentle scent of a peaceful life. Lee stood by the doorway watching her wash vegetables, light the stove, scoop rice. Every familiar motion looked strangely beautiful to him. "You should sit and rest," she said while rinsing the rice. "No," Lee shook his head. "Tonight I want to help." Sam let out a soft laugh. "Then you can sit here and pick the vegetables for me." Lee immediately pulled up a chair beside her, helping while stealing glances at her face, the face he had thought about endlessly during those nights in the criminal's hideout. "You've gotten thinner," he said quietly. "Was it because you were worried about me?" Sam lowered her head, voice small as a kitten. "Maybe a little." Lee sighed softly and touched her shoulder. "I'm sorry for making you wait." She simply shook her head and smiled. "As long as you came back safely, that's enough." Soon dinner was ready. A simple but warm meal. Vegetable soup, fried eggs, braised meat, and boiled greens with ginger fish sauce. All the dishes Lee had eaten with her before. They sat across from each other under the warm yellow light. "Sit down," Lee said, putting a piece of egg into her bowl. "Tonight, let me take care of you." "You just came home," she said shyly. "Exactly, that's why I should take care of you," he replied effortlessly. Her cheeks flushed and she looked down. Then she placed a piece of meat into his bowl, speaking softly. "Eat more. You must have had a hard time these past days." Lee looked at her for a long moment, then nodded gently. "I did. But thinking of you gave me the strength to endure." Their eyes met, gentle, deep, filled with love. Dinner passed with soft laughter, the quiet clinking of chopsticks, and warm conversation. Just a simple meal, yet it was enough to fill all the loneliness and longing of the past days. After dinner, when Sam stood to clean up, Lee stepped behind her and wrapped his arms around her, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Sam," he whispered. "Yes? From now on, can I eat here often?" Sam's face reddened so much she didn't dare turn around. Her voice trembled but overflowed with happiness. "Yes, you can." Lee tightened his embrace slightly, his lips curving into a peaceful smile, the smile of a man who had finally found where he truly belonged. And that place was beside Sam. After cleaning up after dinner, Sam wiped her hands and glanced at the small box Lee had brought earlier that afternoon. The silver necklace lay still inside, reflecting a soft, gentle glow. She carefully picked it up, her heart skipping a beat without warning. Lee walked in from the living room. Seeing her pause in front of the small mirror, he smiled. "You want to try it on?" Sam turned around, her eyes sparkling. "Yes, but I'm afraid I might drop it." Lee stepped closer, his warm voice low and slightly husky with emotion. "Give it to me. I'll put it on for you." She lowered her head, her fingers trembling slightly as she placed the necklace in his hand. Standing behind her, Lee gently lifted her soft hair. The distance between them was so close he could hear her quiet breaths mixed with her familiar, calming scent. He carefully fastened the clasp, his fingertips brushing lightly against the skin at the nape of her neck, warm, delicate, causing a sudden tightening in his chest. "All done," Lee whispered. Sam turned around. The necklace rested perfectly on her collarbone. the silver droplet pendant catching the light like a small moon falling onto her skin. Seeing her like that, Lee froze for a few seconds. She was beautiful, but not the loud, striking kind of beauty. It was a gentle, pure warmth, the kind of beauty that made his heart clench. He took a subtle breath, then said honestly, "You look beautiful, Sam. Exactly like I imagined, maybe even more." Sam blushed, her hand instinctively touching the pendant. "I thank you. I was worried it wouldn't suit me." Lee shook his head and took a small step forward to admire it up close. "It suits you. Suits you the most. Because it's gentle. Just like you." Her ears turned bright red. She lowered her gaze, unable to look him directly in the eyes. Lee chuckled softly, the rare kind of smile he only ever showed her. He reached out and brushed his hand gently along her cheek. "I gave it to you because I want you to carry a bit of peace with you. When I'm not here, it will protect you in my place." Sam looked up, her eyes shimmering with a thin layer of tears. "But now you're already here." Lee nodded slowly. "Yes, now I'm here. And I'll be here for a long time." In that moment, the distance between them was no more than half a breath. Sam smiled. A small tender smile that glowed like the warm kitchen light. Her voice was soft as a breeze. "I really like it, thank you." Lee looked at her for a long time. The necklace glimmering on her collarbone felt like a milestone, a quiet sign that she had waited for him, and he had come back. A powerful feeling rose inside him, stronger than anything before. He wanted to protect her. For long. For good. For the rest of their path ahead.
Xin chào mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Câu chuyện hôm nay mình kể về cho mọi người nghe đó là câu chuyện tình cảm của cô gái nghèo mang tên Tự Sam và cảnh sát Lee. Sau những biến cố và những khó khăn, sau những cuộc ẩn danh để đi điều tra thì cuối cùng cảnh sát Lee cũng được phá được án và quay trở về tìm Tự Sam. Hai người đoàn tụ trong hạnh phúc và Tự Sam cảm thấy may mắn khi mà được gặp cảnh sát Lee, được anh yêu thương và che chở. Còn cảnh sát Lee cũng cảm thấy rất là tự hào về Tự Sam vì cô gái là một người mạnh mẽ. Anh yêu thương Tự Sam hết mực. Liệu tình cảm của hai người sẽ đi đến đâu? Có gặp sóng gió gì hay không? Thì mời mọi người cùng đón xem ở những video tiếp theo nhé. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video hôm nay. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nhé.